Sustainable fuels are essentially the climate-friendly stand-in for fossil fuels. Global demand for liquid fuels is significant, and even partial replacement with low-carbon alternatives represents a multi-trillion-dollar market over time. Hi, my name is Quinn Marvin, and I am head of data and analytics at Speed and Scale. I'm also a researcher and an investor in the climate tech space. I am so excited to share the climate tech map with you all. Growing up in North Carolina, I fondly remember trips to the Outer Banks, where visiting the Wright Brothers Museum and learning about the first flight at Kitty Hawk left a lasting impression on me. It was incredible to see what they accomplished, achieving the impossible and taking flight. And as a kid, I learned modern flight requires an enormous amount of fuel. Ever since those days, I've loved planes and travel. I'm fascinated by how modern life depends on being able to move goods and people long distances quickly. But as I learned more about climate change, that fascination came with the tension. Aviation is one of the hardest sectors to decarbonize and one of the fastest growing sources of emissions. So how can we keep the excitement and magic of flight and travel while making it sustainable? Sustainable fuels are essentially the climate-friendly stand-in for fossil fuels. Think of them as decaf coffee for the planet. Same function, way few jitters. Sustainable fuels are built to power the world, dramatically cutting life cycle greenhouse gas emissions. Aviation, shipping, and long-haul freight require fuels that are lightweight, energy-dense, and reliable over long distances. The transportation sector emits roughly 8 to 9 gigatons of greenhouse gases every year, around 14% of global emissions. What's more, emissions from aviation shipping are expected to grow significantly as global trade continues to expand. Without sustainable fuel alternatives, these sectors lack a viable near-term path to deep decarbonization. From an economic perspective, this is also an enormous opportunity. Global demand for liquid fuels is significant, and even partial replacement with low-carbon alternatives represents a multi-trillion-dollar market over time. This blending of fuels is like making a half-calf as we transition off the caffeinated coffee. As an investor, large and growing demand plus a compelling climate case makes sustainable fuels a critical area for innovation. What if the trash we throw away at home today could go into powering flights for vacation? Our economy produces enormous streams of carbon-based waste, from agricultural residues to municipal trash. Most of it actually ends in landfills. At the same time, we keep extracting fossil fuels to make the hydrocarbons we rely on for fuel. This innovation imperative is called waste to value, and it turns waste into a useful feedstock. The technical challenge to scale advanced conversion processes like gasification and pyrolysis that can convert waste streams into high-value synthetic hydrocarbons, including sustainable aviation fuel. If we can figure this out, it will slash landfill emissions and displace fossil fuel extraction at the same time. We need clean, cheap, and plentiful feedstocks, lower emission fuel production, and scalable biofuels. Another urgent imperative is to unlock low-cost, scalable sources of clean carbon and hydrogen. That translates to breakthroughs in green hydrogen production, carbon capture, smarter biogas, and new ways of sourcing carbon that don't rely on fossil fuel extraction. Third, there's the question of how we make fuel. If the process is emission-intensive, it negates the point to shifting to alternatives. We need ways to convert high inputs into high-performance molecules like methanol or ammonia into fuels that can run existing engines on existing infrastructure. Finally, biofuels from crops are cleaner and can be blended or even replace traditional fuels. What if we could produce and scale up biofuels without depleting farmland, without competing with food production, and without putting additional pressure on our land or water resources? Don't overlook fuels. While batteries are absolutely critical and will keep improving, sustainable fuels are critical near-term solutions for aviation, shipping, and heavy transport, areas where we can't wait for transformational battery breakthroughs. This is also a space where getting cost and scale really matters, which often means working across industries and with governments. Many of the most promising pathways will require strong public-private partnerships to help de-risk early projects, build infrastructure, and move technologies from the lab into the real world. Fuels are a solvable problem, but they require the right partners around the table. Finally, getting fuels where they're needed is a big challenge in this space. Every link of the supply chain matters: production, transport, storage, blending, and end use. It's a compelling area for operations and logistic folks to work on. While they might seem niche, sustainable fuels touch everyday life. Think about the packages that show up at your door, or the flights you take to visit friends and family, or even the farmers trying to get their produce onto a ship or truck to reach a broader market. Sustainable fuels are essential behind-the-scenes element that keep goods and people moving every day.